Good morning, everyone. My name is Habiba Boumlik. I will be presenting with my colleague from France, Angelique de Villiers. We will talk about our COIL experience during the winter of 2020-21. And we did this collaboration thanks to the support of FACE Foundation. So with my colleague Angelique de Villiers from Rodez Institute of Technology, we collaborated on the project we called Conflicting and Converging Worlds Through Film. Students read one article about assimilation and struggle. It was about the Maghrebi immigration and French political culture. And they watched and discussed a film from the MENA region called Fatima. They explored the themes of self and identity, liminality and displacements, othering and belonging from their cultural perspectives. So what are the tools we used? Well, first we used Slack for self-introductions with short videos and photos where students talked about their hobbies, the landscapes, shared photos about their campus, pets, and heroes. Then we had a live chat in large and small groups via Zoom breakout sessions. We also created a Google Doc and we used it during the breakout sessions to discuss the readings and the film. And finally, we used surveys for pre and post COIL and also reflections. So just to give you an idea about how we used Slack, so we have one of the students here, for example, submitting his video, and we had different activities, as you can see. More videos, okay, from students here in France, at LaGuardia, and also as well as in France. So students had to read this article by Catherine Whitall on the assimilation and struggle. And we discussed these important themes of the socio-political situations of the Maghrebis in France. We talked about the various generations of immigrants and their perspectives, about their respective ways of embracing or questioning the French society's values. And we talked about the second generation Maghrebis who were born in France and still struggling with issues of identity. And then we talked about the definition of citizenship and the idea of plural belongings. And we also talked about the pluralistic Muslim identity, which also applies to the Muslims in France. Okay, so the film Fatima was about all these issues. Our first meeting took place on January 11th. So we discussed the article. We asked the student to explain why the story of the French state's relationship with North African immigrations is both turbulent and complex. We also asked them to think about what the author meant by these observations. African or Maghrebi immigrants from form neither a homogeneous political group nor an isomorphic cultural community. And as you may see, we give them three more questions, which we discussed first in small groups and then in a large group. As I said, we created a Google Doc for this collaboration. And so we used this Google Doc during the breakout sessions with a set of rules. We had facilitators, one facilitator, note taker, and then the participants each had a rule. And so I used this for my class, but I also used it for this collaboration with Angelique. And so students, each group had a set of questions, and they had to discuss the questions in their small groups. And then when we get together, students summarize their discussions, okay, as you see here, and then added to the discussion content when we all get together. So this is the film that the student watched, and my colleague Angelique de Villiers is going to take over.
Well, a first-generation immigrant mother who lives in France with her two daughters who were born in France. So, of course, here the major topic of the film is identity, liminality, othering, and belonging, which were the core topics of our project. And the film raises the question of communication. During the first meeting, the second meeting, sorry, the second synchronous meeting between the students, which happened on the 25th of January, we gave this series of questions that you can see here, 7 questions that the students had to discuss in small groups. Here, throughout the following slides, we try to highlight the major ideas that the students came up with and developed. Regarding the way that Fatima, the heroine of the film, can manage to go beyond the language barrier, the students talked about the fact that she writes a journal in literary Arabic. Then she cooks for her daughters, which was highlighted as another way of communicating with her daughters and exchanging as well. She also takes French classes. Then we talked about the fact that she is a self-taught author, so she tries to go beyond her professional identity that she has or that she undergoes while in France as an immigrant cleaning lady, because she's perceived as uneducated, while in fact she is educated, and so we talked about that a lot. Then, of course, we talked about the two diverging attitudes of the daughters. One who is so very serious medical student, so going through prestigious studies, which is a way of asserting herself as a second-generation young lady, and the other one who is rebellious. We talked about the fact that her rebellion is another form of self-assertion and communication, and also a way of asserting her identity. Then question 5, which was about the jealousy of fellow immigrants, which is another very important component of the film. The jealousy that, the jealousy that Fatima and her daughters as immigrant face comes mainly from fellow immigrants, so other immigrants living in France, and for example, being resentful or jealous towards the brilliant daughter who does medical studies. Right, so that gave way to a very rich exchange. It was very fruitful, okay? And we talked about phenomena like victimization, erasal of identity, the fact of being perceived differently, whether you are an expat or an immigrant, the caste systems and everything. Okay. Interestingly enough, a few questions were raised during the debate with the students and the collective exchange. For example, do you have to speak the language to be integrated? And that was very interesting to talk about that, discuss what are the other ways of being integrated, or what are the other ways of fostering belonging, a sense of belonging. We talked about sexism, of course, and also, and that was very interesting, and this is because we were working between France and the USA, in which the requirements when you apply for a job are different. The American students were quite surprised by the fact that in France, whenever you want to apply for a job, the employers require a photo. Okay, so that was very rich, very interesting, and even for us. And here are a few global reflections and comments that we could read in the post-COIL project. So someone said New York is the best place in the world because it's diverse. We talked about that. How are you integrated depending on the environment, the context, etc. Someone said diversity is economically necessary. Working together is necessary. If we don't, it's gonna backfire, which was a powerful statement, I think. Someone said someone compared California and New York as being places that foster a sense of belonging. And someone said, that's why I wrote it in blue, because I think that it's a good conclusion, in fact, about that topic, these topics, this class is all about inclusion and tolerance. It can improve our whole college experience. We should have more courses like that. It's all about humanity. The students in general